talking. Who can hear me? Yeah. Fantastic. Because you see, this is an audience participation situation. You are very important for this entire experience, you see. Because otherwise this won't work. It's very important. And I think, who does this belong to? Someone dropped this. It's a key. No, actually. It's planted. Don't worry. You see, when it comes to authorization, and we have a key, assume this was a key to my house back home in Georgia. It would be a race. If you had this key, you could just get into my house. You don't have to prove that you're me. How would I revoke this key? It's a race. I would have to get home to my house and change my locks. My goodness. And I'm not that fast. So when we talk about access and authorization control, it's kind of tricky, right? And we all know that it can be a bit tricky with keys and how we revoke them. So we're going to talk about today. I know it's a bit tricky to read. I once looked at this and I was like, I love purple. I'm sorry. But I have a fairly good voice, so hopefully it carries. So tailor-made, oh, there we go. Now we locked the computer. Tailor-made dynamic authorization with extensions in Envoy Gateway. And I'm Erica Hughberg, and I'm a community advocate here at TechTrade. So the key problem is that keys can be tricky. Even personal access tokens. Have you ever got one of those and stuck it somewhere probably not so safe? You've got an API key. You've got a JSON web tokens, which can feel pretty good and safe. At times, even the encrypted ones. Wow. The signed ones, they're encrypted ones. And then we have certificates. Ooh, and then you have mutual TLS. Oh, exciting. There's 2 certificates at play. But then certificates has to be rotated as well, because if they hang around for long, they're not that exciting. So then you have to rotate those. And then there's have a master certificate as well. So anyway, it gets tricky. At the end of the day, we have to talk about multi-layered defense, because there are gateways, there are service layers, there are data layers, and oh my God, that's blurry. It's like my eyesight. You have the experience of my nearsightedness there looking at that screen. But anyway, at the end of the day, there's many layers, and we have to look at security at all layers. But today, we're not going to talk about all the layers, because then we would be here for forever, and you'd never get out and have a drink or a bit of food, and you'd get really hungry. So we're going to talk about how we can be more dynamic in our authorization. But I told you, there's a lot of audience participation today, and there's a lot about me, because I'm on the stage, so I get to make it about me. Can Erica access the project? No, unfortunately not. What is the project? This project is called the API service, and you see, this is a project that the engineering team is up to. So, you see, to be allowed to access this project, you've got to be part of the engineering team. Maybe we can pretend that you are all part of the engineering team. And now, you are going to get to vote to see if you want to let Erica be part of the team. So get your little phones out, and my mum, who's a high school teacher back home in Sweden, she would say that this is the most stupid thing you could ever do to a classroom, is to tell the students to take their phones out and do things on their phone, because you know what, they're going to start going on Instagram and TikTok and all of those things and stop listening to you. But I'm going to take the risk, and my mum will probably tell me I'm absolutely stupid for doing this, but you're not going to go on Instagram or TikTok, because I know what you're all going to do. You're going to go on Slack and Discord and your email. But that's okay. You listen to me later when we come back to see what you say about me. Maybe you don't have to vote straight away, by the way. You can make up your mind later. It's okay. It's okay. Anyway, there you go. We'll deal with this. We talk a bit more about access here. So you might have thought that because I am Erica, I should have just had access to the project. But that is not the case, even though we could have thought so. Then you could be like, let's make it a bit better. I am Erica, and I have access to the project. Now we're getting a bit better semantics. And then it's like, I am Erica, and based on certain conditions, like I am part of the engineering team, I have access to the project. Now we are talking real. So we want to work with conditions. We don't want it to be because you are someone. This is often a trick and a problem that I have seen in a lot of authorization. So that is where we want to work with dynamic conditions. And conditions can be changing. And that is also tricky. So you see, I come from a background, I actually ended up working with gateways back in, okay. I know I look very young, and it's nice. But I say that, and now you have to agree with me. So it's probably around, it was very popular. You see, Netflix came out with this Netflix tool. It was around 2016, and towards the end of it, got to that. So we implemented that. We needed a gateway. You see, everyone needed an API gateway. That's what was going on. Everyone needed one, so of course I needed one. And on top of that, you needed OAuth 2. So you needed an API gateway and OAuth 2. And I was like, no, I don't want to understand this OAuth 2. I read the specification, by the way, very mind-boggling. But so, why am I telling you about this? You're probably wondering. Tokens, 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 and those claims in those tokens and what you do with them. Because you see this word conditions? I thought, which you probably can't read, by the way, because it's really small and blurry. But I was like, what if I put the conditions into the token? But now we're back to the key problem. The key. I put the conditions in the key. And now that is very hard to revoke, because you see, to change the locks, I have to beat you back home to Georgia. Tricky, okay? So we have to, how can we make those conditions dynamic? So authentication also versus authorization, when we talk about those token claims. But just to reset here, we all know the difference between authentication and authorization. Authentication is when I prove who I am Erica. If you don't know that by now, I said it a few times. Authorization is, what can I do? Can I access the API sales project? We don't know yet, because we don't know if you have accepted me to be on the team yet. And maybe by now you regret whatever decision you put in earlier. And there are different authorization models. I happen to have some of my favorites, and by now you may have already figured it out. But when we talk about dynamic access and changing access, all of these kind of can help you. So RBAC, role-based access control. It's like I have a role, so I'm an employee. Maybe my role is that I'm part of this engineering team. Could that be a role? Kinda, right? So that could be a role. Attribute-based access control, you can have an attribute and use that to determine. So you can probably get my drift here. There's some logic that needs to run to actually evaluate what's happening. Then you have relationship-based access control, and yes, I left it to last because it is my favorite. Of course I did, because then I can talk about it for a bit longer. So relationship-based access control gets really creative. By the way, I have to go back and touch my computer because it goes back to sleep. So relationship-based access control, that is really exciting because then we have, it's very natural for how we function. So Erica is employed by a company, then Erica belongs to a team, and Erica can be involved in projects, and Erica can have tickets assigned to her, and so forth. And what's really exciting when you look at even other examples of this is conditional information. So maybe if you I worked in a company once where we did not want people when they were traveling out of their home location to be able to access information. So if you normally lived in the United States, but then you were traveling outside, so we wanted to be able to have those kind of rules, and you could represent that. So I thought that was really interesting. And you can start being, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. So you can start being quite creative in how you look at this. But you can even, What I think often gets challenging when we look at these authorization models and tools is like, oh, do I have to pick one over the other? And I think the art lies in that they can be combined. You don't have to just go with one and just go all in on one of them. You have to look at how can you use them together. So let me just continue. So talk about coarse versus fine-grained authorization. I can talk about that all day, which you've probably figured out by now. But why do I bring up fine-grained and coarse-grained? Coarse-grained is often those slower changing things that are like the key, the things that you want to not have to change or dynamically worry about. Fine-grained are the things that could, I like to categorize those into the finer detailed decisions that can be faster changing. But I'm going to use a project called Fine-Grained Authorization and OpenFGA, Open Fine-Grained Authorization in the CNCF, together with Envoy Gateway. And that's why that word is kind of important in this story. I'm going to skip over this slide so we can move on a little. So what is Envoy Gateway? You've actually heard about it today if you paid attention, and that's okay if you didn't, because there's been a lot of information. But Envoy Gateway is a Kubernetes gateway API implementation that allows you to use Envoy proxy as a Kubernetes gateway. It also has then extensions to the Kubernetes gateway API, and one of those is the security policy, which allows you to leverage something that is called the authorization extension, or external authorization, the external authorization filter in Envoy, which allows you to plug in. You know, earlier today I said, oh, I don't like calling it legacy authorization because that sounds so negative. Let's call it established authorization systems, right? You have those things, and you have often, whether that is you want to use something new and sexy, or you want to plug into something existing, or you just want to have something very, very bespoke, being able to plug into an external process to make an authorization decision dynamically. So that extension to the Kubernetes Gateway API allows you to plug in to something dynamic, something bespoke, something that is tailor-made for you. So you don't have to rush home and change your locks, okay? So that's the external auth piece. Look, I do understand it's hard to read on this very dark screen. But we have some other policies for authorization, Envoy Gateway as well, JOT, RBAC, so forth. I'm going to jump maybe to the more fun demo, but here I'm using a very, very, very simplified. As you can tell, it's not very fun. It's like, oh, I have like a very, very simple external authorization service with very fun little things. It's just like, oh, if user one, we have said user one is always allowed. The bad user, not allowed. And if there is no auth header, with my special demo auth header, not allowed. So basically, not allowed. This has nothing to do with OpenFGA. Then we come into the relationship-based access control. And now we have these different people, Alice, Dave, and Erica, of course. Of course I'm back, right? So Alice can access, because Alice, she is special. She's so special. Dave, he can't access the design systems project because he is an engineering manager, so he is not going to get into the design team's stuff. Why would he? It's not allowed. And Erica cannot get into the API service. Interesting. So the relationship-based access architecture flow, here is, if you can see, what we're looking at here is the client request comes into Envoy Gateway, and that makes a call out to the external auth service that then consults the open fine-grained authorization service to ask, hello, based on this graph information, is this person allowed to access this resource? And then the backend, and then we come back. So this is what we're working with here. Hopefully you can see a little. This is sort of the graph relationship. We have an organization, and this organization owns projects. So some projects belong to the entire organizations. They don't belong to teams. Then we have employees. They belong to teams. And then teams, they can own projects. So not all projects belong to teams. Some of them are organization-wide. And then employees can also directly contribute to projects, because maybe you've hired a contractor, and they are going to have direct access to a project. They are not necessarily part of the entire hierarchy. So here's a little company with a few different people involved, and they then get mapped into this structure. I do understand it probably feels like, oh, Erica, there's a bunch of people, and they are part of this company that I've never worked at. And I understand you've never worked there. But maybe it feels familiar because you have worked in projects and you belong to teams. And it's okay if you don't. But if you don't feel like you can map this at this time of the hour in the afternoon, it's okay. But there are organizations that own these projects, and we have in our company, we have an engineering team, we have a design team, and we have some direct access. Because we have this contractor called Ivan, and he is allowed to access the API service directly. So for example, Dave, he can access it directly. These guys, I already know this because I set this up. Fantastic, right? This is the beauty of that when you decide who gets to do what. But we're basically able to create these authorization models based on graphs. Okay, you don't want me on your team. Look, this is what you did. This is what you've been sitting here waiting for the entire time. Are you this naughty? You are probably exactly like my mother's high school students. This is probably exactly what they would do to her. I'm sure of it. You know what? You're going to get one more go. You know what? You're going to get one more go, dear friends. You're going to reset all the votes. You're going to get one more go. Yes. You're going to get one more go. You know what? I'm going to go up here. I'm going to go back. And you're going to get the code again. And now this time, for demonstration purposes, so you're going to see that it's going to change my access. Because I told you this is an audience participation activity. Because you've seen that I don't have access to the project. Right? This only works. I'm going to rearrange a little for a second so we can see this more easily. Actually, I can vote. So you can see here live results. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm very happy for your participation. Thank you. I guess. Okay. So now we can see. Oh, fantastic. Erica is part of the team now. She can access it. Well, you can get one more go. Do you want to have one more go? So what I can do now is I can reset all the votes. Oh, okay, just double check. I can test again. I can still access it. Now I'm going to reset all the votes. Okay, we're going to reset all the votes. You're going to get one more go, and this time, you're going to vote no. So you get to do that one more time, because I think you want to end on that note. I feel like you voted no to start off with, so I think you want to end there. I will let you end on the vote you started with, because I don't want to change your vote. That's not a fair democratic system, right? I think I'll let you vote as you wanted to, right? So, okay, so you found your way back to that. If there's anyone who missed it, there we are. Okay, so now you're back to your original voting. Here is the vote. If you want to vote again, I give you a second. I am fair. I am fair. I might be a harsh teacher, but I'm fair. I will let you have your way. I was a bit disappointed, though. My goodness. I will tell your parents. Send you a note home, or your wives, or husbands, or children, or dogs, or whatever you got at home. Well, that should have worked. This is embarrassing. I have a bug. Oh no! It worked! It wasn't a bug. I was like, my goodness. Oh, okay, at least my software works. Oh, you're so kind. Oh, I feel better now. Oh. I wasn't, okay, well, I had a moment that I was like, oh my God, my software's not working. My testing's bad. But no, it wasn't. I had a lovely audience. Oh, that's nice. Okay, well, it's very close here. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if I was 36 to 34. Well, at least it's digital, so I don't have to recount. Well, I'm not gonna try that again. That was too stressful. But let's wrap up. The CNCF ecosystem tools. OpenFGA is what I was using here in the background, and I had a little fun piece that was actually updating it live based on your votes. And then there's some other tools in the CNCF ecosystem you can lean into, OPA and Keycloak. And you should really also use Keycloak, by the way, or another tool of your choice to authenticate users, because authentication is important. I skipped that one, but look, now my image isn't working. But if you can come to a booth, there is a QR code. Keith, wave your hand. There is Keith. He also got a British accent. So there is a QR code that you can scan to enter our raffle. Actually, I think I might have it somewhere. But you can also find us online at tetrate.io or tetrate.ai. And we will really want to help you accelerate your AI adoption safely, securely, and without friction. So you can obviously find us online. But we are here today, so you can hang out with us. And I am Erica Hughberg. I haven't said my last name much. So thank you. It's been lovely to hang out with you today.
All right. Any questions from the audience? Who wants to make me run across the room again? I'm looking on the far back because I figure that's where it's going to come from. Going once, going, oh, there it is. I knew someone was going to do it.
Sorry, where are you? So you are using Keycloak for the authentication. Is there anything inside of that token that's being returned from Keycloak that points your services to, like, for that dynamic aspect?
Oh, so yeah, I actually, in this demo, I'm not using Keycloak, but in real world, yes. I would recommend, if you want to stay in the CNCF ecosystem, I would recommend using Keycloak, obviously, because that's the option you have. You could use any OAuth to OIDC compliant solution, but the way I have approached this in real world projects is that I leverage the access token and the claims, and then I use those claims specifically if I'm using the identity of the individual to query the graph in OpenFGA, so that the subject claim specifically for the identity of the person. I also have done creative other things where I have leveraged other claims, but also keep in mind another important part of dynamic updates that you might want to do to your gateway is in your claim, in your token, you have a claim called session ID. So another important dynamic update you may want to propagate down to your gateways is if a session has been revoked, and that is achieved via backchannel OIDC logout. So you get that propagated out. Sorry, I can talk about this for forever, unfortunately. Yeah.
Any more questions? All right, let's give another.
Or you can talk to me tonight if you're sticking around and want your ears talked off about authentication, authorization, and gateways.
Let's give Erica another hand.
Thank you.